And welcome back to another edition of the Podmen. I'm Brad.
I'm Brian.
Podman Ron.
And we are back after a few weeks' absence there. But we're back in full force here. We've got a lot to talk about. What's that?
Minus full Alex. Force minus Alex.
Yeah, Alex has been busy. I mean, he is. I'm afeared that he may be starting his own podcast and is, took all the fame and fortune and recognition that he got from the Podmen and has spun off into a new podcast. Is what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, you think he's big time? Big time in this?
It could be. I mean, we know, Brian, you've threatened to start a competitive wrestling podcast as well as a cooking podcast. So Alex, maybe he's onto something.
Maybe so.
Well, at any rate, we don't have a whole lot of news, I don't think, to talk about. Unless we have a few in memoriam segments to go through, and we were kind of chatting it up in the green room, that it's really all about the Batman. But before we get into that, any news, Brian?
A little bit, a smattering. We've found out in the wake of the Batman releases and all the stuff that that's coming from the movie and the expanded HBO Max, universe. The GCPD TV show has morphed now into an Arkham Asylum centered show.
All right.
I don't know what that means for Jim Gordon. If he was going to lead the show, is he now going to be stationed out of Arkham
He's
Asylum?
Just going to be hanging out at Arkham Asylum all the time.
Yeah, I'm not sure how they're going to make that all work, but yeah, it's no longer going to be a GCPD centered show. It's going to be based all around Arkham. So you'll get a deeper cut into the inmates and the history of Arkham and all that stuff. So that's one.
And that's in addition to, perhaps, again, all of this stuff kind of gets greenlit and then it goes away, but there's, isn't Penguin supposed to have a spin-off series? And then talk of a Catwoman spin-off series.
Yeah.
So it's like, pretty much everybody.
Which we can get into that when we get into the review, because there's something I would love for them to have done in the movie, like a wish list sort of thing. And they, I thought they were going to do it, right? But there's a great pitch for a Catwoman TV show or mid-series.
Okay.
So that's the first piece of news. Secondly, we've got who's a fan of Parker? Brad, have you ever read the Parker novels?
Who?
No.
Parker
Stephen Can't Lose? Is that his?
No. Richard Starkings. Yeah, it's not.
That's what you call a throwback, kids.
That's Parker Lewis.
Parker Lewis. Okay, thank you.
Parker Stevens was one of the
Hardy's boys. Yes, you're right, Podman.
And it wasn't he the perennial center square?
No, I think he was.
So, but yeah, the Parker, which it's a very popular book series. It's been greenlit multiple times, but it's never been greenlit but once, I believe, as actually Parker. So the Mel Gibson movie Payback from like the early 2000s was a Parker movie, but because it wasn't, I think because he didn't produce it or he didn't have like Richard Starkings, something about it, he let him write the story and adapt the story, but he made him change the name from Parker to whatever Mel Gibson's name was in Payback. But the Parker novels have been made over and over again into movies, but they've only once been called Parker, and that was in the what's his name? The guy from Fast and the Furious, bald guy,
Paul Walker.
No, the bad guy. Shaw. What's his name? What's Deckard Shaw's real name? I'm drawing a blank on it.
On Hobbs from Hobbs and Shaw?
Yeah.
The British guy? No one knows his name. Yeah.
PMR, what's his name?
Jason Statham.
Jason Statham. I can't believe it.
This is horrible. You know what? Last podcast where we had no agenda and talked about absolutely nothing was still our best podcast to date. But continue.
I got similar feedback. But yeah, so Jason Statham, that Parker movie actually was called Parker. Well, now Robert Downey Jr. and Shane Black are teaming up again. Right, I love Robert Downey Jr. and Shane Black.
Love that combo.
That's two great taste great together. But they're starting a Parker-verse. They're doing a Parker movie, and with the hopes that it fits into other movies.
Excellent. So, okay,
that's good. And then there's some bad news. Did you guys read this earlier today? At the what was it? The People's Choice Awards, the Screen Actors Guild Awards. This week? The Screen Actors Guild, right? Was this weekend?
Yeah, because People's Choice or whatever, something was yesterday. I forgot what it was. Last night.
Yeah. So, but at the red carpet, somebody asked Benedict Cumberbatch. They were making an offhand comment about living in L.A. and stuff, and because it was another British reporter, and Benedict Cumberbatch said, "Well, right now we're still shooting Doctor Strange." So, Doctor Strange has been in reshoots for longer than the initial shooting schedule was.
Right.
It's like it's changing by the minute.
I honestly believe it's changing because of what this No Way Home. I think that made a big impact on what they're going to do with Doctor Strange. I think they're adding Fox characters. I think they're adding all these other characters from these other previous movies. Just little scenes here.
Just little scenes. Just
conflict. The reports are saying now that Deadpool and Wolverine were scheduled to show up, and now they're not.
Maybe they recast them.
Maybe it's like, well, we're not going to do Hugh Grant because Hugh Grant.
This is horrible. Hugh Jackman.
We're not going to do Hugh Jackman.
I say.
We don't want to.
Schnick, old Bob.
Good man. Bob's your uncle. But because if they're going to spin off Wolverine, then why do you want to Hugh Jackman?
They can cast somebody, right?
Yeah, I think you're probably on something. The success of Far From Home and the void of enjoyment that was eternal.
Right.
Probably sending some signals of, hey,
people are getting some ideas.
Yeah. Let me know what works and what does not.
Right.
So, but yeah. So that was really it for the news for the day.
All right. Nothing else? Podman Ron, you know anything else new around here?
I do not.
Nah. We're in a light period for nerd news, I think.
Yeah, it is a light period.
It's kind of calm before the storm. We've got, Moon Knight, Obi-Wan coming out. Those series.
Oh, yeah, we haven't talked about the Obi-Wan trailer. I mean, that's...
Well, we haven't got the trailers yet.
Well, there we go.
There was a teaser, wasn't there? For Obi-Wan?
Yeah, well,
it was pretty big trailer. Yeah. A teaser.
Teaser, yeah, a minute and a half teaser. It didn't showed a few things, but nothing too exciting. But they did say that they had to go back and rewrite it because it was too dark, and initially had Darth Maul and all that stuff. And while the story definitely lends itself for Obi-Wan and Boba Fett, it makes sense that they're all Tatooine based. But we're all tired of Tatooine, right? We're all Tatooined out. It makes absolute sense of why you're going to have an Obi-Wan series based on Tatooine. Makes sense why Boba Fett at least started on Tatooine, but he's like, I'm just going to stay here, I think, and not do anything.
It's like the only planet in the galaxy.
Right. That's what I'm saying. For all of the expansive Star Wars galaxies, they love Tatooine.
Yeah, Obi-Wan had the rights to start on Tatooine and stay on because it was already established. But it's like, why the hell do you have to put everybody else on Tatooine other than it's easy to film?
Right.
We don't have to buy any set. We don't have to make any set pieces because it's a desert.
Yeah, they bought the sand already. They're going to reuse the hell out of it.
Reuse all that sand.
I will say, Ewan McGregor is looking more like Alec Guinness every day. He's looking a little rough. I guess he does like
He's a handsome Obi-Wan. Yeah, absolutely.
Doing him well. Hey, can y'all hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're moving around a lot. It sounds like you're a little bit in a wind tunnel, but you're okay.
All right.
We see you're moving around. Podman Ron, you mentioned Moon Knight as well. I haven't seen a new Moon Knight trailer, and I don't know if I've missed anything.
Yep. I've always been a fan of Moon Knight. One of the best costumes in comics, but every time I see more and more of this costume, at first I liked it. I liked the little mummy aspect that it gave, but the more and more I look at it, I don't know. It's just not. It's just not the cool Moon Knight costume we grew up with. So,
what about the Mr. Knight costume?
I mean, that looks okay, but I've never been a huge fan of Mr. Knight.
Not my Moon Knight, right?
Not my Moon Knight, exactly.
I hear you. I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, it's been said. I'll say it again.
Say it again.
Like Marvel's going in the opposite direction. You know, we started back in the day with these beefy Michael Keaton rubber muscle suits, and slowly but surely weaned our way off of them to practical costumes, and it's like Marvel's gone the opposite direction. The further we get into these, and it's because of their Disney Plus series.
Right.
These Disney Plus series, the actors don't have like all this pre-production time to get in shape. You're right. So they're throwing them in these rubber muscle suits and sending them out, and it does not. It looks cheesy.
This costume does look cheesy. It's too something. I don't know. Too mummy. It looks straight out like an Egyptian pharaoh, and that's really what Moon Knight never looked like. I mean, I know his origins come from that, but that's not what his costume ever was. So it just looks kind of.
Also, just from the voiceovers, and we know that he's going to have the multiple personalities and all that stuff.
I'm good with that.
That's absolutely fine. I don't like his voice. I mean, I hate to say it, and I don't like the way that Oscar Isaac even looks. Like his hair and everything is sort of like he looks more like nerdy museum guy stumbles upon a Khonshu, and I don't like it. I don't think I like it. They shouldn't be selling it, and I'm not buying it.
The whole mummy thing, I mean, at first I really thought kind of a cool concept when I saw just the face part. I was like, okay, that's a new take on it. I'm okay with that. But then it kind of revealed the body, and then more. Now he's kind of got like, how Egyptians had the little skirt.
Right, right.
He's got one of those now, and I'm like, Moon Knight never had anything like that. That's.
And I like the little bitty crescent throwing stars instead of now he has like a big like batarang or something like that. I like the little bitty things, but whatever.
See, I don't necessarily mind the mummy accents to it. The thing that bothers me is the chest piece, that big
it's wrapped in
chest piece up front, like the fake muscles in the front, and the fact that his head. One, his eyes are glowing. Why the hell are they glowing? I mean, do his eyes glow when he's... No. Like, so did he add lights to his mask? Like, why the fuck are his eyes glowing?
Well, I'm going to assume it's magical since the costume kind of does like a venom thing.
Fair enough, yeah.
But it looks like he's wearing a ski mask underneath the mummy bandages because his head is so freaking huge.
Right. I don't like that. If they're going to make a white mask, just make a white mask and make the... Because around the eyes is black, and then you've got all the white everywhere else, like he's been mummified except the eyes, and I don't know. It just does not work for me.
We'll reserve comments. Again, it's fantastic that we live in an age that we get a Moon Knight TV show,
right.
Question mark. Right. I mean, we may regret it, but still. We've also seen, I'm sure you guys have seen a few promotional images of She-Hulk. Of not like drawings on a Burger King mug and stuff like that, but not like photographs.
Yeah, I'm not impressed at all.
What's that?
Not impressed.
Not impressed at all with the green Tatiana Mazzali.
I could be wrong, and they
wow. Marvel is really striking out with you, Podman Ron.
It just looks cheap, like Brian just said. It just is something about the look looks a little cheap with it. I mean.
Well, maybe Marvel will win you back with. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think that the Netflix series are coming to Disney Plus at the end of the month or something like that. Is that a true statement?
That is true. You know what's funny? this is like a bizarre sort of like, I guess, Easter eggy thing. But in Netflix, you know how you pick your logo? You pick your little avatar?
Yeah.
My avatar was Daredevil.
Okay.
It has been for years, right? And we went to go watch something over the weekend, and my avatar was gone.
Oh, you know what? That's funny you should say that. I thought Alex had changed his avatar, and it was Daredevil. Now that you said that, his avatar was Daredevil, and it was some weird creature on there.
Well, let me see if it...
I guess Alex changed it, but...
Let me see if it was the same creature, right? So what they replaced it with, they've got just kind of these, like, floating faces, you know, so it's just like a background color and then, like, you know, basically an emoji-like character, right? So it replaced it with a red tile with a face, and he's crying.
Yeah. Huh. That's exactly what they...
Yeah.
Hold on.
So I guess that was they did that intentionally because Daredevil left.
That's what Alex must have changed his. Alex has changed his to a horse now, I guess. But yeah, his was it was that crying stupid because I was like, why did Alex change that to that? But I see now. You're right because Alex did have Daredevil as his. So
wow, Netflix is washing their hands and feet of all this Marvel stuff.
That's a little salty. I got to say that's
a
little salty.
They lost the right, I guess, to it, so they got to rip them down.
Not that I wasn't paying attention, but did you say that Disney Plus, all these Netflix shows are going to go on Disney Plus now?
That's the word. That's the scoop, yeah. So maybe you can enjoy Daredevil again on Disney Plus.
Because, I mean, technically, they're R-rated material based off of Netflix.
Right.
So the question is, you've got all these, you know, parents, councils, and stuff like up in arms that they're going to put these shows on Disney Plus. So the question is, are they going to get an edit before they release on Disney Plus? So
give them a little zhuzhing.
Jessica Jones get banged from the back by Luke Cage.
Oh yeah, think about that Jessica Jones scene.
Yeah, you got to figure there's got to be some creative editing there. But maybe not. Maybe Disney's saying, like, fuck it.
It just does a close of her face so the kids think, oh, she's just getting it vaginally.
Yeah, just
night
cream. Just night cream. It's fine. Mommy puts night cream on her face, too. All right. Anyway, let's go away from that happy news of night cream to a little bit sadder news. This week's in memoriam goes to William Hurt, Thunderbolt Ross.
Like it's a raffle.
Who wins? Who loses? William Hurt passed away recently at the ripe old age of 70-something, I think.
72, I think.
72. I didn't read past the headline. Any cause of death here? Do we know?
They just said natural causes.
Just old age.
Or he had bone cancer.
He had bone cancer. Natural cause of bone cancer. Well, we all know him, of course, as Thunderbolt Ross. And Brian, you've been threatening to create a Thunderbolt series or movies for quite some time now. Maybe his death in the Marvel Universe kind of creates the Thunderbolts now. Maybe they use an excuse to name it after him or something like that. Maybe.
I mean, we won't have a Red Hulk. I guess we can, but it won't be Thunderbolt Ross. So.
Or he's going to have a son, and they just bequeath it all to him. Or they recast.
Or they recast.
Or they just
recast. I don't think we'll get a Red Hulk, at least not for a while. I think if you're getting Thunderbolts, you're getting either the Kurt Busiek, Mark Bagley Thunderbolts. You know, Atlas, Moonstone, all those.
All right. Well, hopefully,
Beetle.
William Hurt will live on in the minds of nerds everywhere as Thunderbolt Ross.
Well, you know, he also played Lost in Space back in the 1990s. So there you go.
Well, he's been in hundreds of things.
Yeah, we're just really only hitting his highlights, though, Brian. I mean, come on. Altered States, yeah. Broadcast News.
Children of a Lesser God.
Children of a Lesser God, great.
Oh, you know I didn't watch any of those movies, and I doubt did he.
No one did. No one.
Nobody.
No one knew him other than that.
He was in Goliath.
He wasn't.
Goliath.
Yeah, he wasn't. Which I did watch the fourth and final season of Goliath, and I got to say I was a little disappointed. But
A little.
Did you watch it?
I made it like 2 episodes in, and I'm like, I can't watch this garbage. This is a shit show.
That show went off the rails big time. It was such a good show the first season.
3 seasons. The season was.
I like the third season, but the first one's the best. I mean, but man, that fourth season, it's like I cannot believe they went out like that. That was disappointing. But anyway, yeah, William Hurt was
William Hurt's dad. Anyway,
you know what a surprise though. I mean, it was like no one knew he was sick. No one even talked about him being sick. It was just like boom.
He was a very private man. Yeah. Podman Ron, you had a couple of surprising passings that I wasn't aware of.
I am very sad to find out that the character of Booger, the actor who portrayed him in Good Times.
From Revenge of the Nerds?
No!
Booker.
No.
Booker, not Booger.
Oh, Booker.
Is that what you thought he said in the green room as well?
I thought he said it in the green room too.
I thought he did too, and then I remembered, like, oh yeah, the Booker from Good Times died.
I thought he said Booger.
It was Bookman. Yeah, I thought his name was Booger.
Oh my God, we have got people in a tizzy. Oh, the backlash we're going to face.
Johnny Brown. Funny in that show.
Oh, he was always Bookman was always funny, kind of the butt of the jokes and everything, but yeah, we'll miss him. He will be missed. And then there was someone else, Podman Ron, you were thinking, but you couldn't remember?
Howard Hessman.
Oh, yeah, Howard Hessman. Still reeling from that. I mean, shock
He's
after
still
shock.
It was like 6 weeks ago, and we talked about it on the podcast.
Well, we should talk at least about 10 more minutes about Howard Hessman's passing before we go to the Batman review.
I don't remember us talking about Howard Hessman. But,
I thought PMR was talking about Curtis Armstrong from Revenge of the Nerds.
Yeah.
Who the fuck is that?
Booger.
Did he
Not
die?
Booker.
No, he's alive and well, thank God.
Yeah, thank God. America's treasure. All right. Well, hey, let's get out of here before anybody else dies on us, and let's go to
3 or 4 people that died, and I feel like we're neglecting these people that passed.
We probably are. But maybe we should just do a year-end review, retrospective of people who've passed, like
you know what? I'm going to look it up.
In memoriam segment. Yeah, you do that before we get to the Batman. I'll
looked it up. There's not been that many. Louis Anderson.
What? Louis Armstrong died?
For like 40 years. Louis Anderson, William Hurt, Sidney Poitier, Howard Hessman.
You're talking about just this year, not this past week, right?
Yeah. Oh, just this year. I thought that's what he was talking about. That we missed.
I have no idea anymore.
Hold on a minute.
See, now we're getting good at that, Brad. We're going off the rails.
Conrad Jenkins.
And the listeners love it.
Conrad Jenkins died, y'all.
Oh, and how do we know him?
He was Mindy's father in Mork and Mindy.
What was his last name?
Janis, Janis.
Okay.
Man, 94 years old.
Oh, wow. Lived a full life.
Yep.
Who died?
Mindy's father, the conductor?
Yes, Brad remembers.
From Mork and Mindy?
Yes, of course.
His credit is from 1982?
He was but it reached back farther than that.
Yeah, he did a little bit more than just that, just like William Hurt, okay? Don't get cocky about it.
Yeah, don't get all uppity.
Don't get all uppity because Podman Ron brings up Mindy's father from Mork and Mindy and is in mourning over it.
So anyway, I think there was somebody else.
Emilio Delgado.
Who?
From Sesame Street.
Ah, yes, of course, yeah.
Luis from Sesame Street.
Played the character of Luis for like 40 years or something like that, right?
Yeah, like 40 years or something like that. That's a big one. That's a credit.
That's a credit. That's a in memoriam.
credit or someone who just didn't know to move on?
Yeah, I mean, come on. People have multiple jobs nowadays. Just not just one thing on his resume. That's not impressive.
Yeah, come on, man.
The fact that he didn't strive for more out of life is not so impressive.
There you go.
All right, should we move on, gentlemen?
Let's go.
Look for any more obscure celebrity deaths.
You keep looking.
John Janet.
Good job. What was that, Podman Ron?
Oh, no, just...
All right. So let's talk about the Batman. Where do we even start with this blockbuster of a movie? I have not seen it yet because I'm waiting for it to come out for free for me. And plus, a 3-hour movie I don't look forward to. But I know you boys both saw it, correct?
Correct.
And maybe let's start with the characters before we get into too much of the reviews and stuff like that. I mean, that's the big question is, how is Robert Pattinson's Batman? How is the Penguin? How is the Riddler and all this kind of stuff? I mean, let's talk a little bit about the characters first. Get into the plot, and then what did you think about it? Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. Let's start with the obvious. Robert Pattinson. How was this Batman compared to other Batman? Brian.
He was probably the broodiest Batman.
He was
very emo through most of this film.
And what do you help us out with emo? What is, I mean, for a Batman character, what does emo look like? He's all dressed in black, hunched over,
hair in his face, sullen, pale. Like he never goes out into the sunlight. If you'd seen a scene with him like painting his fingernails black, you wouldn't have been.
It would have been normal.
And be like,
okay.
So, not that I didn't like it. It's just he was. When you think about all the other Batman we've had, this is the one he's the most probably broken. He's the most withdrawn from society, and that plays into the way the story goes. Like I've got a kind of the way I view it. It's not a Batman origin story, but it's a Bruce Wayne origin story.
Interesting,
right? Because the movie, at the beginning of the film, he's basically given up on Bruce Wayne. He doesn't see the value in Bruce Wayne. He doesn't Bruce Wayne effectively died in that alley with his parents, and so he's on this mission, and it's this singular vision of vengeance, right? And so the story arc for him is really realizing there's a duality. If he doesn't abandon Bruce Wayne, he can do more, right? He can be more. He can do more. He can help more people by having both the Batman and Bruce Wayne. And they even they're in the trailers. It's the mayor tells him, she's like, your parents were philanthropists. Your parents cared about the city. Your parents helped people. I don't see you doing anything.
Ouch.
So basically, that's kind of his arc. Is at the beginning of the movie, it's almost like Bruce Wayne's resurrection. At the beginning of the movie, Bruce Wayne's basically dead. He's abandoned his persona. He doesn't, he's not a celebrity. He doesn't go out. He's a recluse.
Not a playboy.
And his learning at the end of the movie is that he can
be
the world need Bruce Wayne as much as they need Batman.
Gotcha. Podman Ron, what do you think about this brooding Batman?
I think actually I haven't heard that the way Brian put it, but that's a good way to put it. He's absolutely right. I like this. I like the fact that this was, as Brian just put it, a Bruce Wayne origin pretty much. Batman there was really no Bruce Wayne. It was Batman. And what was kind of brilliant about Robert Pattinson's performance was that even when he wasn't wearing the costume, he was still Batman. I mean, and you could see it. You could see it in his eyes, the way he acted. He was still just Batman. He at this point in this film and his career, there is no Bruce Wayne. There is only Batman. And we have all read the books long enough to know that Bruce Wayne is the true identity. I mean, Batman is the true identity. and Bruce Wayne is the alter ego.
Right.
And this movie plays that up. That Batman, this is him. This the way he acts as Bruce Wayne, Batman.
This is the way.
They're feeling the difference. I love that. I thought Robert Pattinson did a fantastic job with it.
Good.
My only gripe about what Brian said, but it's just the movie in general, is I wish, and correct me if I'm wrong, because it was a 3-hour movie, Brian, but I wish at the end of this movie, spoiler alert, that we would have seen maybe at like 5 minutes Playboy Batman, Playboy Bruce Wayne appear.
Kind of emerge.
Show the finality of that arc, that, he did arc. This is, he has emerged. This is the reason why he is the way he is. I didn't get that at the end. It was like, I wish we would have had a moment where he realized that, okay, I need to be Bruce Wayne. I need to be the Playboy, to be different during the day and do this stuff as much as I need Batman at night. And I need to make this alter ego of Bruce Wayne. We didn't really see that, and I kind of wish. And we may see it. I'm sure the next movie
to be seen. Yeah,
but it just wasn't in this movie at that time. So,
see, I think that's a cognizant decision. That now you get something really different. You get a really different story arc for the second movie, because now he's integrating Bruce Wayne into. Bruce Wayne's reintroducing himself to the public, right? Bruce Wayne is now you get to see something different. You get to see the two sides of his character and how he plays them off of each other, right?
And that's fine. I just wish a little bit we could have seen that towards the end of this movie, especially a 3-hour movie.
You had time. You had time.
Yeah, an arc should have been reached by the third hour.
They're going to stretch that arc out.
I've got another sort of idea for you to think about, to mull this over. I feel like this movie is probably the first movie of the streaming age, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a 3-hour movie. It's almost like a binge movie. It's like you didn't watch a movie so much as you binged a series on Netflix for 3 hours.
Okay.
Right. So we've said for years that this would be a good movie, but it'd be a better TV show, right? Because you could do that long form storytelling. Well, this was kind of both. It was like a movie, but they really kind of leaned into the long form storytelling, and it wasn't like a 3-chapter film. It was like a 5-chapter film.
Really, they crammed a lot, and a lot of it they crammed too much. I'll be honest.
See, I don't feel like by having it 3 hours, it had a chance for stuff to breathe a little bit.
A little bit, but it was like, in that 3-hour time, some of the stuff was repetitive. Like, it just seemed like we were doing the same thing again. And so that's where I was like, okay, we could have done without this little riddle here. They talk for forever to try to figure out what a winged rat is. It's fucking obvious what a fucking rat is.
Yeah, but it wasn't. It wasn't what you were thinking.
Either a pigeon or a bat, right?
Well, but it wasn't either.
Oh.
So, but here's the thing. Like, think about this. Like, and Brad, when you watch this on HBO Max, it might be cool to watch this in like little 45-minute installments.
That's maybe how I do it.
Right. Do 4 45-minute installments if that works out to be 3 hours. Does that check out? Yeah, it checks out.
Close enough.
That's 300. Anyway, but watch it in little in sections, in chapters, and then it's like, well, you're watching a TV show about a serial killer and they're going after him.
Right.
Right. But it's. I feel like they haven't said it, but I feel like there was a little bit of an experimental part to this film. To go, wait, we can eventually people are going to want to watch it. It's going to be on HBO Max. Everything else on HBO Max is serialized, right? And that long form storytelling. From a director standpoint, you get to tell a beefier story and kind of toe that line or tiptoe on that line of is it a TV show or is it a movie? And you can tell a much more involved, intricate story, and that's what we got. I mean, we got a story where either most of Batman's Rose Gallery appeared or was referenced.
I mean,
aside from Harvey Dent and Mr. Freeze,
everybody's
there.
Wow.
So then you've got, in the next movie, likely Harvey Dent showing up, right? Because that can get into the whole Bruce Wayne and his, if there's any sort of political aspirations or, if they're pulling to Bruce Wayne to get into something political because his dad ran for mayor versus, and then introducing Harvey Dent as he becomes more involved in the city, right? Trying to help the city. But long story short, I enjoyed it. It needed a second viewing though, because there was so much, so you could really kind of.
I agree with that.
Pick up on stuff.
I need to see it again, and I will see it again, but it won't be at the same.
It won't be.
The last act to me, and I mean, I was on board that first hour. I was like, oh my God, especially the first 30 minutes, 45 minutes. It was like the perfect Batman, what I grew up with, what I liked. I thought this is really cool to see Batman walk into crime scenes with Commissioner Gordon and go over stuff. That was really cool. I mean, that's straight out of the comic books, back in the 70s comic books. So it was like, I really loved that. I loved his fighting style. I loved everything about it. And then all of a sudden it just slowly dragged, it just did not. Well, by that third hour, I was really just like looking at my watch thinking, how much longer? Yeah, and then there's a scene, and at the scene, I think it really, to me, kind of jumped the shark was, and Brian, we talked about this. I think we talked about it, and I don't. You said it comes from a comic book, and I get it, but it just didn't do nothing for me. Is when it flooded. I mean, it was like he floods Gotham, and at that point, he pretty much loses. I mean, this Batman. He didn't really beat anybody. I mean, he pretty much loses. I mean, he beats nobody. I mean, Riddler kind of got caught by the cops. He ends up flooding Gotham. He wins in that way.
Riddler even said that this was his plan.
Yeah, Penguin advances up to Crime Lord because Falcone gets killed. I mean, really, and Falcone wasn't caught by Batman.
So Batman didn't do much in this.
Batman really didn't do it.
And
so that was the only thing. It was like my other issue, and don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to shit on this movie because I really liked it, but my only other issue with this, because Robert Pattinson was so good, to me, the villains were just very boring. You're used to, especially with the Batman's Rogue Gallery, I don't want them to be, Cesar Romero, for God's sake, but, I mean, it needs to be a little more vibrant and exciting and, and they weren't. I mean, they were just like, Penguin just kind of faded into the background. He was really cool looking. If he would have had more screen time and a little bit more oomph, I mean, he probably would have been a better character. Riddler was just too goddamn weird to be fucking anything.
See, I like Riddler.
I did not. I just thought it was more or less like everybody's comparing it to like a Seven or, one of those type things that, it wasn't your, it's just, I don't know. It was just, the villains to me were very boring.
What about Catwoman? We haven't talked about Catwoman. I want to hear about Catwoman and your take on Commissioner Gordon as well.
All right, Brian.
So Catwoman, essentially, it's her Batman Year One story arc, except she's not a prostitute.
Oh, okay.
Right? But even the whole scene with her and Falcone, and she's in the leather like bustier, the fact that she doesn't have her head shaved, right, or all that stuff is straight out of Batman Year One, right? Where she scratches Falcone's face,
right?
All that, but they made it. There's a couple of weird things they did. They were one, she worked at the Iceberg Lounge. But she wasn't a prostitute, but then they kind of wrote it like she might have been, but didn't, it's just weird. They wouldn't like commit to what exactly she was doing, right? But then like her roommate, who she kept calling baby. So I guess they're insinuating that she might be, bisexual.
Well, in the comic book she was, so, I mean...
Well, nowadays in comic books, they all are.
Well, that's true. Forgot.
But she kept calling her baby, and then she ends up getting killed, and that's what drags Catwoman into it. But she's already a cat burglar, which would be enough to pay bills, but still works as a club and may not be a prostitute. So they kind of like put a bunch of stuff in, and then you find out, well, she's doing it all because Falcone's her father. And she's doing it to try and either get information on Falcone or get close to Falcone and confront him or kill him or something, right? So that all kind of was going on. And but I liked her portrayal of Catwoman.
Did they ever call her Catwoman?
No.
Okay.
Well, she says at one point the cat and the bat.
Okay.
Yeah.
But, she could be just referencing Catbird.
Right.
So, I did find it was interesting the way they left off her character is, she's going to kill Falcone and Batman talks her out of it. And this Batman is the I don't kill, right? Okay. He even tells Gordon, he's like, put the gun away. And Gordon's like, that's your thing, not my thing.
Nice.
So this is the no guns Batman. But the way it leaves with Catwoman is, she wants Bruce to leave, or she still doesn't know who Batman is, but she wants him to leave with her because she's going to Bloodhaven. Why would you go to Bloodhaven? It's like, it would be like, leaving New York to go to New Jersey. It's like, why are you? It's like an hour away. But she's going to Bloodhaven, so it's not like they're taking her far enough off the table. It was cool that they mentioned Bloodhaven, but it's just kind of weird that that's where they sent her off to. But she goes off to Bloodhaven, and she wants Bruce to come with her. And he's like, no, the city needs me. She's like, the city's going to kill you. I wish they had, if they're going to do a Selina, or should we talk about where it goes from here later?
Yeah, I want to hear about Gordon. Podman Ron, what was your take on this Commissioner Gordon?
Well, let me take my take on Catwoman.
Yes.
Yep.
I think she was probably one of the, she's probably the most attractive Catwoman. I thought she looked fantastic. I liked her costume. I liked, the look, because it was the amateurist Catwoman. She looked straight out of Year One Batman, in my opinion.
Right.
I thought she looked great. Everybody's saying she had a wonderful performance. I thought she was a little boring also. She was just kind of, she was doing stuff, but it wasn't really, her performance was kind of flat to me. And I guess it's just me, because everybody else was like,
everybody else loved her.
Everybody else loved her, but she's attractive and she looks great. And her fight scenes were fantastic, but just the personality was a little boring. Brian kind of hit on the fact that, she's this cat burglar and she had all the gadgets to do everything and be a good, great cat burglar, but, we go into her little shitty apartment and she's got past due bills. So it's like, what is she?
Bad at money management.
Yeah, she's bad at money management. If she had a bunch of jewelry and stuff strewn around her apartment, fur coats and clothing, I would have been like, okay, it was just like a dump, and then she past due bills. So obviously she's a shitty cat burglar, I guess. Stuff like that just didn't make much sense. But who's counting? It's simple petty stuff. I think they'll flesh out her character a little bit more. He's talking about her going to Bloodhaven. Yeah, that's close enough that if something happens, in Bloodhaven, Batman could guest star in her little TV show or whatever. She could take on the Nightwing role of, Bloodhaven's having an adventure over there. So, I mean, she's okay. I mean, I'd like to see her again. I'd like to watch her TV show. I think once you flesh out the character a little bit, I think it'll be all right.
All right, very good. How about Gordon?
I liked him, and it's the young Gordon, it's Lieutenant Gordon. So I actually liked him. I thought he was. Yeah, I liked him. I liked him better, of course, than probably any of the Gordons. Actually, I like Gary Oldman, but I actually like this guy better than Gary Oldman for whatever reason. I think he may be my favorite.
Favorite Gordon. All right.
Yeah. We never really got to see what's his face as Gordon for
more than 5 seconds. J.K. Simmons.
Yeah, J.K. Simmons. Yeah, I mean that was it. So we really didn't see much of him as Gordon, and I really like this guy. So yeah.
All right, Brian, any thoughts on Lieutenant Gordon here?
Yeah, I liked him. I didn't like him as much as Gary Oldman. Gary Oldman's my favorite, but he's my second. I mean,
I think I liked them better because I like their dynamic better. I like the way they were more partners than I felt like, because I feel like Batman relied on him more than the Gary Oldman Batman relationship.
Okay.
It just seemed like just what I felt like. They were more. Like I said before, he was going in the crime scenes with them and stuff like that. It seemed like more a two-way relationship than a one-way relationship. Like
y'all hush.
You forgot to turn your mic off there, Brian. But good try.
Thank you.
So anyway,
all right. So that I was just going to say that kind of rounds out most of the heroes, except for one of the other big heroes of the movie, the Batmobile and the gadgets. How do they compare to the past Batmobile and gadgets?
Well, gadgets-wise, it was really only one. He had the Batarang, right?
Yeah.
And then he had the what?
Well, his gauntlets had these claws on it, like I can't explain. I mean, he would use that a lot. You could see them in the photos. I mean, they were like grappling hooks or
the things that looked like arrows on his.
Looked like arrows. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But he didn't use them.
Did he use it? He used them a couple of times when he grappled stuff.
He would block people with it, like he'd use it as a shield.
But I thought the thing where he used it as a grappling hook too.
No.
Okay, maybe I'm wrong.
Right, so he has the Batarang and the wingsuit.
Batarang, the Batarang's huge, and it's actually his chest piece.
Gotcha.
Yeah. His bat symbol is the Batarang.
Right.
Well, it's a little weird to me.
Yeah.
The biggest gadget, and it was probably the most practical, and I think it actually kind of exists, so when he goes to the crime scene, he's wearing contact lenses that record the whole thing.
Gotcha.
In high definition. So he can go back and review the crime scene he's not bringing a camera to the crime scene, but he can review everything because he's basically recording all of it. So when he'll see that somebody's holding something, and so he'll freeze frame and spin it upside down, so it's spin it oriented so it's right side for him, and zoom in and stuff and view it. That was really his biggest gadget was these contact lenses. So, and it was practical why why they would be useful and that sort of thing. Kind of going back to what we were saying a second ago, that now that we're talking about him as a detective, this is the Dark Knight Detective. That was what we were kind of billed as. This is Dark Knight Detective, but he ain't the world's greatest detective.
He's not.
He's an okay.
So
detective.
considering Riddler's plan went exactly according to plan, right? Everything Riddler wanted to happen happened.
Wow.
Up to the very end, when he thought that he and Batman were best buddies and realized they weren't. That's the only thing that didn't go the Riddler's way. Was Riddler even planned on ending up in Arkham because that was going to be their safe haven from the flood. He wanted him and Bruce Wayne to be together in Arkham, so they were safe.
Gotcha.
or not Bruce Wayne, but Batman.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Well, what about the Batmobile? Did the Batmobile? I'll be very upset if you're telling me the Batmobile does not get destroyed at the end of this movie, as is tradition with all Batman movies.
It does not.
What? What? The Batmobile has to get destroyed.
Yeah,
Just like the Enterprise. The Enterprise has to get destroyed every movie. Are you kidding me?
No, actually, this was a very cool Batmobile. It was more practical than any of the other ones that's ever been.
This Batmobile was badass.
All right.
Yep. Looking. That was a good scene with the Batmobile.
And, it looks like a Challenger right in the front.
Right.
But it doesn't really do its justice, because when you look at it from the back, and that's where the flare comes up.
Right.
The fins come up in the back, and then where the trunk and the back seat and all is hollowed out, and that's where, the jet turbine is.
Yeah.
So if you look at it this way, it looks like a beefed-up Challenger. When you look at it from that, the opposite direction, that's where it looks just like
Fast and Furious, yeah.
So,
I wonder if they got the idea from Fast and Furious 9 with the jet Pontiac or whatever that was.
Yeah. Or I think they honestly probably saw some of the Joker, what's that story? The Dark Knight story. Is it where the Joker? Murphy did the Knight League, the Dark Knight. They've done 3 different series, but it's basically that's what it is. There's it's got GCPD and Nightwing and Batgirl work for the GCPD. Batman got put away because he'd gone too far. The Joker actually got him put away, right? But they all have these muscle cars and stuff. So I think that's probably where some of this came from.
How about the villains? Joker? Penguin and Riddler. Are there any other? You mentioned that there's a big rogues gallery mentioned in here, Brian. Who else gets an honorable mention?
Hush. Hush gets an honorable mention. And I'm guessing at some point early on, maybe in development, it wasn't the Riddler as the bad guy. It was actually Hush because of the whole, taping up his face and that sort of thing. But maybe DC was like, well, who the hell?
Right.
Hush. We want it to be an established character. Don't give us new stuff. But so Hush is referenced in it. Towards the end, somebody's about to kill Catwoman, and you see Batman pop a thing on his gauntlet, and I guess this was in his utility belt. He pops a thing on his gauntlet to open up a hole, and then he takes out this syringe sort of thing, jabs it in his wrist, and pushes it in, and it's a green fluid, right? So we reference Venom, right?
Venom's a drug.
Yeah, really.
Venom is a drug that is famously used by Bane to increase his strength and agility and that sort of thing. So he pops a Venom
shoots up a little bit,
ampule, and then beefs up and attacks the guy. And he's about to beat the guy to death. So after he takes the Venom. Let's see.
I didn't care for the thing too much. I thought that was kind of Batman's never done that. But
Batman used Venom in the comics.
When?
That was where it all came from. That was the whole part of the story.
Yeah.
When Bane...
That was a little nutty, yeah.
That was not my Batman.
Not my Batman, Brian.
That's the origin of Bane.
Well, I know that's the origin of Bane, but
that's
part of Bane's origin. That's what Brian's saying.
Batman was using it, and then to get an advantage, and then Bane used it against him.
Break him in half. Podman Ron, while Brian's looking up other folks there, so you just weren't a fan of the villains. They were just kind of too blah, which is usually the exact opposite. Usually we all love the villains, and Batman's boring as hell, right?
Right. I mean, it's not that Batman's boring as hell, but it's you have the villains to kind of, don't know, they've always been the interesting part of these movies. I mean, any of these movies. I mean, Spider-Man's the same way. I mean, you have the villains are always the fun part. You know, they overact, they go nutty. You know,
right.
I mean, they always. I mean, from Jack Nicholson to Heath Ledger. I mean, Heath Ledger, for God's sakes, won a freaking Oscar. You know, I mean. Even Bane, as dumb as Tom Hardy was, I enjoyed that character. I mean, it was over the top, but, you know, he had his, you know, it was a good character.
So were these two all...
DeVito is the point. I mean, Danny DeVito, as stupid as that was. I mean, it was something you remember.
Were they too grounded in reality almost?
Yeah. I feel with the Penguin, I feel like it was too grounded in reality. And with the Riddler, I feel like his motives were just too grounded. Like it was just a psychotic person, and then they just dressed him up in a weird suit to say in green to say, "Oh, he's the Riddler." You know, I mean, his riddles weren't that hard. I mean, they're just, you know, there was no. I don't know. It just didn't fit. He didn't seem.
Not my Riddler.
He's not my Riddler. And, you know,
do you think we're just too old for these movies, Podman Ron?
No, I don't want him to be over the top like Jim Carrey, as ridiculous as that idiot was. But, you know, a little bit something than just everything was drab. I mean, if you were gonna have a Riddler like that, then spruce up the Penguin a little bit. You know, make him a little bit something to remember, or vice versa. But
right.
I don't know. To me, it just kind of was blah. You know, just the villains were.
So let me ask you this, Brian: are we, especially with Batman, maybe more than any other superhero, because everybody loves their dark and gritty and now emo Batman? Is this a problem that is too grounded in reality? That Batman is a guy without superpowers. He's rich. He can afford stuff. He's an okay detective. But he's not from another planet. He doesn't have a ring. He's not super fast. So therefore, you can't put him up against superpowered villains. Is that a problem with Batman? That he has to be grounded in reality and therefore kind of boring?
If it's a problem for Batman, you've got 80 years of comics where essentially he did just that. Right? I mean, the Batman comic.
But in movies, does that not translate into movies? You know?
Right. So, you had Justice League where Batman fights superpowered threats.
Oh, this was. Yeah.
In the Batman comic, he never has. Right? So,
right.
So, you know, I don't think it's a problem. I don't want to see this Batman interacting with Superman.
And that's the problem. And I don't get me wrong, because like I said, I really like this movie, but you could have taken this character and made him Joe Blow,
right,
super sleuth, and had the same script, and there was nothing to do. You know, I mean, it was just anybody could play this character. It's not
interesting.
It's not a Batman where he seems any type of superhero at all. It's just a weirdo wearing a mask. I mean,
that's by design, though,
And
right?
I get that, and
that's part of this whole story.
I really wanted this Batman or whatever they're going to do to be able. And this is a great start to a Batman universe. Okay, there's no doubt that you can they can run a good 3 or 4 movies with this Batman universe with spin-offs with Catwoman, Penguin, and all that. But to put this guy into the regular DC universe, it wouldn't work. Where, in my opinion, the Ben Affleck Batman was the superhero Batman. You know, and another thing I liked about the Ben Affleck stuff, and I kind of wish they would have done it this way, was he was already established. He was already he'd had his rogues gallery, so we don't have to see another Riddler story or another Joker story or another. You know, we could see something a little bit different. Or if we did see a Riddler story, he already knows the Riddler, or I don't know. It just,
See, I don't. I
like the movie. I like the movie. I don't.
No, we get you.
I cheated on it.
Yeah, you are allowed to like a movie, but also say, you know what, this was an enjoyable movie, but it's not a cinematic masterpiece. I mean, Batman kind of has the same problem that Superman has, in the sense of who the hell you're going to get to beat up Superman, right? And so Superman's too overpowered unless they bring him back down to earth for whatever reason, and he's defeatable. And Batman's sort of like, well, he's just kind of a normal guy. You can't really have any kind of overpowered person fight him. So they're almost the same, the same sides of, or different sides of the same coin, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know if Ben Affleck would have been like this, but your Batman, and like Brian said, in the Justice League could fight someone superpowered. I mean, because he uses his brains to figure out their weaknesses, and does that. To me, that's the DC universe. That's part of it. I want to see the DC universe, and all we get is this crap that they poured out with the Snyderverse. And then now we're rebooted a Batman movie that's just really going to be a Batman. I mean,
right?
So that's fine, but
I guess I don't. You can, the way DC is setting things up, right? And DC said this a few weeks ago. Like, DC is their mantra now is hire the best director and give him the resources and leeway to make the best movie. I mean, they have said that. If somebody wants to make a Justice League movie, make a Justice League movie with a different Batman.
Podman Ron doesn't like that. He likes his continuity.
That's not but see, that's the thing.
But I think most public is probably like Podman Ron, though. I think most public would be very confused by having emo Batman in one universe, whether they explicitly state it or not. Emo Batman lives on Earth 643, and then superhero Batman, who battles parademons, lives on Earth 12. I don't think people will get that.
Well, the opposite side of that, hang on one second, the opposite side of that, what we've said for years, the comics is, and this has always been a major complaint of PMR, is they do something in the movie, and now the comic
right.
change the movie. Yep. Because somebody might pick up that comic and be confused.
Right.
Well, if
just
we
like
don't
the Parker
like
novels,
then how do we make allowances that we can't have two Batman? That the movie can't be different than the comic, or the movie can't be room for two different universes.
Right. But comic book readers are smarter than film goers, I think.
People already know. Well, you're getting a multiverse movie with Flash, where they're going to establish multiverse and explain it to the average viewer. You've got Titans is not set in this universe, right? Snyderverse is not set in the Titans universe. This Batman is not set in either of those two universes. Michael Keaton's Batman is not set in these two universes, but Michael Keaton's Batman is going to show up in the Flash movie. So I think, and just the fact that Far From Home, where they're like, that three different Spider-Man come together, I think people can handle the fact that there's multiple Batmans.
I don't think they can.
And I do, and I get that and all that, and people can, and they're going to have to. Y'all all know that I'm a continuity nut, and to me, Marvel did what Marvel did. Marvel Cinematic Universe did what the original Marvel Universe did in the 60s. They took characters and they tied them all together and made continuity. That's why it all stuck, because before that, you didn't have continuity in comics. You didn't really have it that much. Marvel kind of established continuity in comics, and then they did the same thing in the Marvel Universe and the Cinematic Universe. They made it continuity. So I'm kind of worried, even with all this going on with, I'm not a really big fan of, I like the Spider-Man. I thought that was kind of cool with the other two, but now I feel like, especially with the Doctor Strange, this is all we're going to constantly get now. We're always going to constantly get, this is the Marvel Universe and Earth 12, and Earth 15, and it's always going to be, you're not going to have that continuity anymore.
You're not.
And I like
here's
that.
the problem.
And I like that. I know actors get old and everybody ages up, but it's just what I like, you know.
Right, but
you love what you love.
Realize, like, what you like isn't practical, okay? Because you say it's practical for a comic book where you never have to recast Steve Rogers. It's practical for a comic book where Tony Stark, he may get drawn a little differently, but it's been the same Tony Stark for 60 years, right? You can't do that in a movie, and that's part of what Marvel is realizing. It's that they've painted themselves into a corner. Continuity's great in a 10-year stretch, a 12-year stretch, a 15-year stretch, but now, for continuity's sake, we don't have Steve Rogers anymore. For continuity's sake, we don't have Iron Man anymore. For continuity's sake, we don't have the Hulk anymore. So would you rather stay beholden to continuity and lose these core characters, or say, you know what, continuity is great, I want Captain America back?
Yeah, but, you know, there's nothing to say that whoever gets to play Captain America is going to be worth a shit. You know what I mean?
No, but would you rather would you be more excited for a Captain America movie to be coming out, right, or an Iron Man movie to be coming out versus Riri Williams?
Yeah,
or a Falcon movie.
I see your point. I do see your point. I really do.
So here, taking a step further, right? If you like continuity, and they go, okay, we're going to do a Crisis, reset the whole universe, and we're going to start the whole thing over again and do another, phase one and build the universe over again. Now you got to sit through all this fucking origin stuff.
Right.
That's no one said. What you're saying, Brian, is Kevin Feige should just retire early while they get out while the getting's good, because it's a no-win.
He should have taken his victory lap at the end of Endgame.
Yeah, totally.
Bye, and then let all this shit fall apart.
Right, because it's happening regardless, and there's nothing he can do about it. People are turning to ashes.
I don't know. I mean, you still got the Spider-Man was a fucking almost a $2 billion movie.
Without a doubt, yeah.
We really don't know what's going to happen with Doctor Strange. So until they'll count Feige out yet. I thought Hawkeye was great. It's a fantastic show. I think that most Disney Plus series are people like.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying that maybe you ought to just take the paycheck and leave. But anyway, that's another story. Going back to the Batman. How did this resolve itself? You guys talked a little bit about the lack of, or the beginning of Bruce Wayne's story arc here. Where does this leave off? Does this lend itself? It doesn't sound like it lends itself to being a wider superhero verse, but it does open itself up to a Gotham-verse. And Brian, as you said up top, there's thoughts that maybe we'll have a Arkham Asylum TV show, a GCPD TV show, a Catwoman, whatever. All that stuff will change probably over the next couple of years or whatever. But is this all it's going to be? Like, where do we go from here? Do the stakes get even higher and we do introduce crazy villains, or does it stay grounded and by itself?
Well, I think, first off, like, where does this end? Right? What's the arc? The arc is, by the end, Bruce realizes that that he had, at the beginning of the movie, he says that he has he's been doing this for 2 years and he doesn't know if he's had any effect, right? By the end, he realizes he's had an effect, but it's the wrong one. Like, his anger and his need for vengeance, like, the city has mirrored it, right? And specifically, like the Riddler, the Riddler thought he and Batman were working together. Like, in his mind, they were both exposed in the corruption in Gotham City, right? And it wasn't until the end that Riddler realizes, wait, we're not best friends? That was where Riddler, loses it. But everything Riddler did worked, right? Up to he was trying to protect Batman when the flood happened, because he thought they were partners in crime, right? So Bruce realized, and then when the flood happens and Bruce is trying to save people, they're afraid of him. They don't want his help because they're afraid of him. They don't understand him. And so he realizes that if he's going to help the city, he has to become more. He has to become something different. He has to be, people have to know that he's not this nut that just beats people up, that he's a protector, right? So that's the arc so it's like Batman can't just be vengeance. Batman has to be a thimble, right?
Okay.
And Bruce Wayne can help with this mission, right? Bruce Wayne can provide value as well to the city. So that's like the story arc, and that's why I was saying it's like the resurrection of Bruce Wayne. But like where it goes from here, I think it's going to continue to expand. I think this movie, and we didn't talk about all of the references, right? I'll kind of get back to that in a second. But I think this was an origin of the villains, right? And so you saw Penguin, you saw Riddler, you saw Catwoman, right? They referenced Bane. It's year 2, and there's the big reveal at the end. Inmate. Arkham Asylum inmate was what it was credited, was Joker, right? Now, we don't know what form of Joker he is, but at the beginning of the movie, there's a scene where they're on the train, and there's the Joker gang is on the train. You've got guys in Joker makeup. So, either Joker was a part of that gang and got put away, but Batman put him away, or maybe he's not become the Joker quite yet, or maybe he hasn't he's not the Clown Prince of Crime yet, but he's interacted with the Joker already, and the Joker already has some followers, so that's there. And then they the big reveal about that Thomas Wayne was going to run for mayor, and his wife Martha was in Arkham, right? Which that actually was in a book not that long ago. They kind of made that connection, but and that she had psychiatric issues, and that's why they don't know if that's why he got killed, but he had a partnership with Carmine Falcone, or he had a friendship with Carmine Falcone, and when that goes back to Batman, the origin of Batman, right?
No,
but
that was a friendship that I called
Hang on one second. So you've got all of these villains that have been revealed. I think the next movie, you do the opposite. I think the next movie, you get a glimpse of Barbara Gordon. I think the next movie, you introduce Dick Grayson. I think what you're aiming towards, and from a continuity standpoint, is the end game of this is Gotham Knights, right? Okay. So you've got a huge rogues gallery. And now you've got Arkham Asylum, so they're not getting killed. They're all getting put into deep freeze in Arkham Asylum, so they can come back later. And then you've got Gotham Knights that you build. And if you want to have a huge battle crescendo at the end, that's kind of like Endgame. It's Arkham Asylum. There's a huge breakout of Arkham Asylum, and then you've got Batman and Dick and Robin and Nightwing and Barbara Gordon all having to take down the villains, right, that have escaped. I think that's your crescendo. But yeah, I think the next movie is going to be where this was the dark side. The next side is going to be Bruce, him embracing some light, and in that, you don't get, more hopeful than Dick Grayson, right? I think Dick Grayson's in this next movie.
Wow. Okay, you got it plotted out.
I think you're on to something with that. I think it's going to be Dick Grayson will probably be in the next one, and then you're going to.
And he helps Bruce, come out of that.
Right,
yeah.
But I still think in what you just said a little bit ago, the crescendo, the end game. You're right. I think it's going to be Gotham Knights, but it's going to be the whole where Bruce learns that he can rely on other people, that there's a family again, and these people are his family. And I think that's going to be the ultimate arc of him, that he's going to be able to trust people. Maybe, I don't know. That seems like that would be more.
But see, that's from a screenwriter standpoint. I wish we knew a screenwriter. From a screenwriter standpoint, that's an attractive story arc, right? this first movie, Bruce is all dark and brooding, and he has the realization that he has to become more. The second movie is the struggle and duality of the two characters, and Dick Grayson is what helps him see that light.
Yeah.
And see the value in it. And then the third movie, he realizes that where he began by losing his family, now he's found a family.
Look at that.
There we go.
That's beautiful, man.
Send the check to us. There you go.
There you go.
All right. Well, is there more?
There's a couple of little Easter eggs, right?
We don't have to do this in real time.
Yeah. So I posted. I didn't see anybody post this till well after I sent it to you guys. But that Joker scene with the gang, there's one of the Jokers only has his face painted half because he's being initiated into the Joker gang, and they follow somebody off the train and they're going to beat him up. And but the guy that's got his face half painted, the actor is the one that plays Tim Drake in Titans. So pretty nifty. So there was a Robin. There was technically a Robin in this movie, right? But that was one. And the second one, and this was probably my first introduction to Batman, was the Untold Tales of Batman, right?
Oh, yeah.
The 4-part miniseries by John Byrne.
John Byrne, yeah, I love that one.
Yeah. It was like 83, I think it came out. I didn't have the comics. I had that. They put it in a black and white, like, digest book.
Right.
And that's when I read it the first time. Right. And it goes into the Thomas Wayne and the Masquerade Party, and Thomas Wayne's wearing the Batman mask. And he's wearing the Batman mask that you saw Batman in when he first debuted in the 30s. Right. And so they worked in that mask. And that's when Carmine Falcone was shot, and they brought him to the party, and Thomas Wayne like did surgery on the dining room table. They reference all of that stuff in the movie, right? And so I was like, that's really cool because that's a deep cut that was cool in the early '80s, but after Frank Miller got a hold of Batman, a lot of that stuff got kind of blitzed. Yeah. You know, it kind of got retconned out. But I thought that was a super cool sort of reference.
What I always liked about that storyline, and you're on the right track also with that, with the way he's portraying, like we talked about at the beginning of this review, was he's constantly Batman. He's never Bruce Wayne. Batman is his true persona. In that comic book, he absolutely loses his mind, and he's trying to figure out what villain is that's trying to kill him. He's planting bombs. There's a bomb in the Batmobile. There's a bomb in the Batcave. Who knows my identity? Who's doing this? And so he's trying to figure it out. Is the Penguin? Is the Joker? And then by the third issue, after he's going through all these clues, the third issue, it's revealed that it's fucking Bruce Wayne. He's doing it. He's lost his fucking mind. So I always loved that. That was a great story to kind of show you that, this man ain't right. So,
well, and you also kind of reference, where the Robin costume came from. You remember that?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that was such a cool story.
And so, that's a great, and it's a deep cut, and it never shows up on, like, top 10 lists or anything.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, Untold Tales of Batman is a great, it was only 4 issues, right?
No, it's 3.
3, yeah.
There you go. So, but yeah, Untold Tales of Batman is a great story. Like, highly recommend.
Great art. I don't know who wrote it. I know John Byrne drew it, but I don't know who wrote it. But man, it was freaking fantastic. So yeah, that's. I have no doubt that they're probably leading to something to that. To get more into the psychosis of Batman, because I mean, if you look at it, of all the ones that we've seen in the past, you really don't get that he's kind of crazy. I mean, Christian Bale really wasn't that crazy. He was just a rich billionaire, playing superhero. And Keaton was probably the closest you would get.
It was Lin Wein wrote it.
Lin Wein, okay. Keaton was probably the closest that you were going to get that he was a little off, But the rest of them, you don't really get that. But this guy, you definitely get that. He's not, the elevator don't go all the way to the top.
Well, and you could, if you're bringing in Dick Grayson, and I'll tell you, probably one of the best parts of this movie, and he plays such hokey characters a lot of the time, like you kind of forget that he's been like nominated for stuff. But John Turturro plays.
Yeah, he did.
He's probably the best, most fleshed out villain in the movie.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
so.
To a point where I wish they would have kept them around a little bit more, because wasn't he the reason Robin's parents died? I mean, Dick Grayson's parents?
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So you've got, if you wanted to in another movie, if you bring in Robin, you can reference Falcone and you can even show us the scene, the masquerade scene, right? And because the masquerade, Thomas Wayne was wearing the Batman mask, but Bruce was wearing the Robin costume.
Right.
And so you can reference that, and then when Dick gets ready to put on a costume, and he finds Bruce's costume, like, in a closet somewhere. So, I will tell you the other thing. We got a few quick like rapid fire Easter egg stuff, but I think for a second movie, what I think would be cool as well. Is if you brought in, if you did not all of, but Strange Apparitions, and you brought in Hugo Strange. So if Bruce is trying to deal with, the duality and kind of work through some of his issues, he goes to see a psychiatrist, and it's Hugo Strange. That would be pretty badass. And then you could even bring in Silver St. Cloud.
Oh, yeah. There's some... I mean, as the Gotham universe, there's so much way, and you know what? And that's probably for the best. I mean, because the Gotham universe is huge. I mean, there's so many ways to spin it. Where instead of doing a DCU, you can definitely just do a Gotham universe and make as many movies as Marvel has in the past 10 years. So,
yeah. I mean, Batman could be his own.
His own MCU, his own DCU.
There you go. Yeah, maybe that's the whole plan, right?
And that may be the whole plan. I mean, I honestly, and I've said it 1,000 times. Probably everybody's sick of me hearing it, but honestly, just kind of wish that they would just make a straight DCU Justice League. Not a big Snyder. I would just kind of recast the Flash because I wasn't a big fan of that cast. Superman, I love the casting of him, but they need to play him a little bit more, not so emo. And I love Ben Affleck. And I don't know. Well, Wonder Woman's fine, Aquaman's fine, and just do a really good Justice League movie, not what we've been getting.
They tried. Yeah, they tried. Tried twice, as a matter of fact. They tried twice and couldn't make you happy.
Yeah.
Guys, hush!
Somebody's trying to give their opinion at the Bryan household there, and he shuts them down.
The Pod Mini, man. Pod
Mini's want to have a little say-so in it.
I muted the mic. Could you guys still hear me?
Yeah.
It's still coming through my iPad.
Yeah, your mic ain't muting too well.
Yeah, we heard you just cuss out one kid. I mean, that kid is going to have to go see Hugo Strange for a few. Yeah. All right, so overall, let's get into ratings here. Podman Ron, what do you give this rating? This movie?
What's our rating system? Is it
1 to 5, or a 1 to or a 0 or 1?
This is your rating system. You invented it.
I couldn't remember it.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
It's pretty convoluted.
I would give it a 4.
Okay. That sounds fair.
It would be a total 5 if it wasn't so damn long. And if I'd give the first hour a 7.
Wow. Now, I think that's interesting. I like this now. We should break up the movie hour by hour or act by act and rate each, and then on average, maybe. Yeah. So a first hour is a 7, overall is a 4, and a binary is 1. I'm assuming.
Yes.
Okay, that sounds like a hell of a movie. Brian, can you beat that review?
Do I need to give like first hour?
I would like to see that on the poster. First hour
trails off at the end.
Yeah.
You'll love half this movie.
They should have stopped after the
From a 7 to a 4.
This 5-man run.
I feel like, considering I've seen this movie in the theaters twice already.
Wow.
Good Lord, where do you have the time, man? Jesus Christ.
I said this to somebody. This movie is like a masterclass in Batman lore.
Wow. I mean, okay. I sense a lot of love coming from you.
I mean, all the stuff they reference and No Man's Land, Year One, Untold Legend. It's the Untold Legend of Batman, not Untold Tales of Batman. Untold Legend of Batman. Joker being there, Venom being there. Even they added the maid, from the 60s, right?
Aunt Harriet?
And Harriet.
Well, it's not Aunt Harriet. They call her Dory. But yeah, they have like an Aunt Harriet there.
Wow.
In the study, he's got the Shakespeare bust sitting there. I mean, it's
all right.
There's so much. It is chock full of so much stuff. I'm giving it a 5 out of 5.
Wow, I love it.
Damn.
I love Batman, and it's nice when you can tell the filmmaker loves Batman as much as you do.
All right, a 5, and you're going to rate the first hour as well.
Yeah, I'll give the first hour. I'll give it a 5 because I stick to the rules.
Oh, okay, that's what I was about to say.
Scale of 5, you can't go beyond 5.
Excellent.
First hour, Brad. I'm telling you, if you've seen things, just go through that.
Okay, that sounds fair enough. I don't mind paying $20 for an hour.
That's all. And then you won't be disappointed by the third hour.
Wow.
Oh,
I mean,
there's a little Easter egg. I don't know if you guys caught it, but when Gordon and Batman grab Joker and they're interrogating him, did you guys notice, or you didn't see it, Brad, but did you notice this, PMR?
What?
They have his hands and feet zip tied. So when he has to, walk away, he's doing like a penguin walk.
Penguin shuffle. Yeah. You're talking about when they have penguin? Yeah. Oh, I didn't notice that.
The old penguin shuffle.
I did notice, and I don't know what you think about this, Brian. And maybe it's just the way I'm looking at things, but his scar looked like the 60s penguin's cigarette.
They said that
Colin Farrell.
Colin Farrell begged them to let him use the cigarette, and they wouldn't let him do it.
Well, if you look at his face, he's got that scar. It goes to the side, and every time I saw it, and I think they did that on purpose, it looks like it always reminds me of the cigarette that the penguin that used to have that big long cigarette.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So look at it and you'll go, oh, that is. So I think they did that on purpose. I mean, why else would they put a scar right there?
Yeah, just a little nod to it. But yeah, he said that he begged them repeatedly to let him use the cigarette, even just in a little throwaway. He just starts, he's got it in his mouth and sets it down, and they wouldn't let him do it.
You don't want to portray smoking in a kids movie.
I would love he looked great. I mean, there's no doubt he was perfect in the looks department. I would love from the next movie to really just, pour it on in terms of cheesing it up a little bit, just a little bit. Just not be so reserved as it looked. The best part is once they did capture him, and like when he was zip tied and stuff, that was his best little nod, his best little moment was in that part. And, when he was getting chased, but that was 5 minutes at best. So it was and then you had to go back to the Riddler and that stupid shit. So,
we kind of I started to go down this path and we got diverted, but they reference when Thomas Wayne was going to run for mayor, somebody outed Martha Wayne as being an Arkham, and she had to be admitted to Arkham Asylum. Like, she had like issues, and you found out that her mother killed her father and committed suicide. Right? So all this scandal breaks when Thomas Wayne's we're going to run for mayor. And so that's when he goes to Carmine, because he knew Carmine from when he got shot at the masquerade, all that stuff. And he goes to Carmine and he's like, can you stop this story? Can you intimidate this reporter? And Carmine ends up killing the reporter, right? So that he has something over on Thomas Wayne. All right. But the reporter's name is Edward Elliot. And so when it's like a slideshow when the Riddler set up when it's revealing this stuff to Jim Gordon and Batman, and it goes, Edward Elliot. It shows like newspaper clippings, and then it says "hush," like it's scrolled across "hush," like it was the story was hushed up, right?
Right.
So they kind of reference Thomas Elliot. So you could bring in Tommy Elliot at some point as well. I don't think he'd carry a movie, especially considering what we just had with Joker, or with Riddler. But you could bring in Tommy Elliot wanting revenge against the Waynes because his father was killed by. Everybody thinks he was killed because Thomas Wayne asked Carmine to kill him. So
interesting. So did Court of Owls have anything to do with this? Because that was a big speculation at first, right?
No.
Okay, good.
No, nothing. But with the city in disarray, right, with the flooding and that sort of thing, it could uncover the Court of Owls, or it could be they're the ones that get the city back on its feet. So you could, but again, I think that's something that's more expanded universe than it would be, core Batman movie.
I would like to see Court of Owls.
Well, Court of Owls,
it would be something different. And
it would be something different, but they spent so much time after that initial Court of Owls storyline tying the Court of Owls to Dick Grayson.
Yeah, you're right.
You could just make it a Nightwing story.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
all right.
I guess that's it.
All right, that's it.
That's the review.
All right. Well, I'm glad we got it in there, and I'm glad now I've waited. I think I can wait even longer now, thanks to your reviews.
We've spoiled everything.
Yeah, I have no need to see this movie now. You both have saved me 3 hours of watching a movie.
Brad, we're up a Batman fan, like I know you did. You actually do need to see this movie.
I absolutely will when it's on Max, but
we'll enjoy it. You will enjoy it probably more than me.
I'm sure I will. Again, going to the movies and all that kind of stuff doesn't hold as much enchantment to me as it used to, I guess I'll say. And I'll be honest with you, even watching them at home, I'm like, after an hour or so, I'm like, I need to be doing something else. So it'll take me a week to watch this movie. Like Brian said, I'll probably chop it up into several slices.
I honestly think you may enjoy it better that way.
Yeah.
So.
All right, very good. All right, so what's after this? What is there next? I mean, everything's getting delayed. What do we have to look forward to? Moon Knight, I think, is the next TV show, at least, right?
Moon Knight, next TV show. I will do a review next week on the Picard.
Oh, on the Picard. Is that what they're doing? Instead of calling it Picard, they're doing like Batman and calling it the Picard?
The Picard.
I like that. I think that's a good theory. I like that.
I will have that ready for y'all.
All right, very good. Brian, anything on your radar?
I've watched what is it? Diabolical. The Boys animated series is out.
Oh, okay,
So
all right.
they're little vignettes. There's not an overarch. It's just stories from the boys' universe.
Gotcha.
You know, it's got a different writer and artist or a different animator on each one. They let Aquafina do one, and it's weird. Like to the point where it's like they made it because she's they signed her to do it, but somebody should have just said don't. No. It's bizarre, like what her power set is and
interesting
what the story's about. I think that's the third episode.
Okay,
but whatever means Aquafina.
I would like to now that you said that, Brian, real quick, because I'm fixing to cruise out of here. Have either one of y'all, and we don't have to talk about this week, we can talk about it next week because we'll be in it a long time. Is either one of you guys watched The Guardians of Justice on Netflix?
I watched. Well, I turned on one episode. I can't say I watched it. I turned it on out of morbid curiosity. And then once I did, again, it was on in the background while I was doing something else. But, interesting.
Well, Brian, real quick, what do you think? Have you seen it?
Wait, what are we talking about? Sorry.
Guardians of...
No, I'm not. I saw the trailer.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, just give it a gander for next episode. So.
And who plays the Batman type character? Is it Diamond Dallas Page or it's a wrestler or something like that, right?
John Morrison plays somebody. He's a wrestler.
Oh, okay, maybe that's who it is.
So there's a few wrestlers in this thing.
Oh, okay, I thought it was DDP.
That explains a lot.
An awful lot. All right, well, very good.
So that's everybody's homework assignment for next week.
Okay, I can try to watch a second episode.
Unless we do a live show this weekend, since Brian's coming up.
Yeah, are we supposed to be doing that interview thing for that guy, or is that?
Oh shit! I hadn't touched base back with him. I'll touch base with him.
Yeah, we should talk about that because if it involves, I'm not really sure what you envision here. Are we going to be podcasting live? Is there going to be equipment that needs to be set up? What are we talking here?
I'll hit him. I'll hit him up tomorrow.
All right. Don't overcommit us to anything.
I know we're completely booked.
We are booked. But I do want to hang out. The Maker Lab is the place to be. That's the.
I don't even know what the fuck he was talking about. I just saw my text. I was like, I don't know what's
the Maker Lab.
So it sounds interesting, though. So, we never know.
Well, and we're all referencing a toy convention that's coming up here shortly. But some of the folks that are going to be in the Maker Lab for this convention were the people that I hung out with in the Maker's Lab at the Monster Convention.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So.
Well, that's cool, Brad. That's kind of cool. So you know what he's talking about. I didn't know. Yeah. I asked him. I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool.
So you can make you'll probably be able to make a vacuum form mask of a creature from the Black Lagoon or something like that. Pretty neat stuff.
Yeah, they was it last year? It was last year. They had a whole area where they had built these huge dioramas.
Oh yeah, they were incredible. I mean, So
I think you'll dig that as well.
So. All right, so maybe we'll let people know if we're making a public appearance or something. Maybe.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, very good. Well,
all right.
Well, until next time.
Save it for the podcast.